thank you, Asakia Madre Choir, and all the teachers and parents and grandparents and everybody who support these programs. Thank you so much. I do want to send a special thank you to Leanne Devon, our music education coordinator. Leanne, where are you? There we go. Thank you for bringing the highest quality music education into our schools. Thank you so much. Another thing that we're very proud of is our use of technology in instruction. And we're extremely excited about the direction that we're going forward in the use of instruction in our schools.
Hi, I'm Dr. Tom Ryan, Chief Information and Strategy Officer for the Santa Fe Public Schools. A lot of people are talking about the fourth industrial revolution and how these revolutions are impacting society. The first one in the 1800s was about machines. In the 1900s, it became more about factories, especially with the advent of electricity. In the 2000s, we started looking at digital content and moving from a paper-based to a more digitally based society. We also saw an increase in mobile devices such as smartphones and tablets being a part of our daily lives. The use of mobile devices gave us greater access to the internet, which changed the way we work and how we interact with each other. Today, we're seeing artificial intelligence, virtual reality, automation, robotics, and all of these are starting to play a significant role in our lives and changing the way that not only we do our work, but how we relate to each other and communicate. It's also forcing a change in how we need to educate our children and prepare them for a future that we can't accurately describe today.
Technology education is, in my opinion, about sort of building an equitable base where people are able to get the kinds of jobs that are happening down the line in the future, including art and creativity, as well as things like more hardcore technology, video game design and programming and circuit building, things like that. And now we do all of those things all in the same place, but pretty much every job in the entire institution involves a very high level of technology use.
Therefore, the big question for educators today is, how do we prepare kids for their future when we know that many of the jobs that exist today won't be there when they graduate?
The students of the future need to know how to do more than just apply the technology. They need to understand how it works at a very core level so that they can come up with new ways to use it and creative ways to use it. It takes years of learning the technology until you can really understand it at that low level that you need to be able to try something that hasn't been done before. And computer science then, of course, can't just be taught in college or even high school. These technical skills need to work their way all the way back to the earliest part of a child's education so that after 10 years go by, that they actually have a mastery of it and can apply it to doing new things. The technical skill needs to be it's actually fluency in reading and writing. They need to be able to pick up pretty much any technology and be able to understand it and use it if they're going to use it for an expression.
Santa Fe Public Schools is addressing this through a recently passed computer science resolution.
Having a computer science initiative that's district-wide, that touches all students, is really important. We need all students in the community receiving computer science education. It's a new literacy. It's part of their future. Having a broad vision around computer science where it's K-12, all schools, all kids, all scenarios, integrated, that's the important part.
These initiatives will provide students the skills they need: computational thinking, coding, and problem solving.
It's absolutely critical, not just important, to teach coding and computer science skills at an early age, because computers are everywhere. They're in every industry. They're even in our cars. They're in our factories. They're in our music. They're everywhere. And so having computer skills actually at a young age prepares you to function in a wide range of potential careers, not just computers.
When we think about the computer science resolution that the board recently passed, we're not looking at adding a new program or a thing. We're looking at adding the skills through all classes that kids will need in problem solving, critical thinking. Those are the 21st century skills necessary for them to be successful. We're looking at how to utilize those skills across all subject areas, whether they're math, science, or humanities. We want kids to be able to connect the curriculum across all these subjects to see what the relationship is between the content and their lives outside the classroom.
I think a lot of the students that I see out there in the field have everything that it takes, all the ability to think and process and build systems or whatever, but they don't usually have the resources at their disposal that actually try this out. There's a million amazing stories that can be told with the technology to bring us into the future.
It's part of our economic future, it's part of a rich future for these students, and I'd like to live in a community that is computationally rich.
As we move forward with these initiatives and transforming our schools, we know we can't do it alone. We need the support of our community.
I think that the Lionel Foundation is really honored to be a partner with Santa Fe Public Schools with this endeavor. It's a game changer, really, for kids. This is the future. You know, it's not really even the future, it's right now. This is what's important for kids, not only in how they learn, but in what they're going to do and how they're going to solve problems and the jobs that they're going to need. For our kids, that's so significant. I mean, I think of things for us here in New Mexico in terms of 3 key areas: our environment, our health issues, and community planning. And to engage with those 3 problems or areas with computational thinking is going to be significant.
The success of the initiatives that we're proposing depends on the support and partnership of organizations like the Lionel Foundation, as well as Technology Notes. Using the funds made available through the EdTech Notes has allowed the Santa Fe Public Schools to build a fantastic network infrastructure. Additionally, the community support of the EdTech Notes has not only given the district the opportunity to build out the infrastructure, but also provides digital content and devices to students and teachers, as well as professional development that we can now leverage to really transform the way we teach and learn in our schools. We thank you for your support as we continue to partner with you to create a great environment for all of our students.
It gives me great pleasure to introduce one of the individuals who helped pass that computer science resolution, our extremely passionate board president, Stephen J. Carrillo.
Thank you very much, Jeff. And although she just left, it was board member Kate Noble that brought that initiative to us, and we're very glad that she did. Boy, that was nice and bright. It's great to be here. It's always great to stand before people who support public education in our Santa Fe Public Schools. And I want to first say that, and I know that I can speak for everyone that serves on the board, that it is an honor to be in the service of you in this room, our teachers, and our kids, and our community. And so today with us, also we have, if you wouldn't mind standing, Maureen Cashman, Vice President of the Board, and Kate just left, but we also have Rudy Garcia, of course, and Lorraine Price. And I want to thank them for their tireless work and their passion for public education. When you see the new strategic plan, you're going to see that it says on it, Santa Fe Public Schools, where remarkable happens every day. And it truly does. And you've seen some of this today. You've seen the music, the marimba from Mandela. You've seen the Acequia Madre Choir. You're going to be treated to the young singers from Ramirez Thomas. When you go to our facilities, I mean, our facilities team is here. You see facilities that are second to none. And I'm not kidding, because I've been all over the state and seen what goes on. And when you go into Santa Fe Public Schools, they are very well cared for and very well planned for. And we have the community to thank for that, with our GO bonds, but as well, just in general, supporting public ed. So whether it's our facilities, nutrition, you saw the culinary team from Santa Fe High School whether it's the medical pathway happening over at Capitol High and all these first-time graduates of high school going off to college and going to medical school. There are just so many great things every day that happen in Santa Fe Public Schools. And so everyone here today that works for Santa Fe Public Schools, please, we just give you a huge... So, given who I am, I couldn't just ignore what's going on in our country. So there was a past president who said, and very rightfully so, that if we don't learn from history, right, we're doomed to make those same mistakes. And I'm horribly paraphrasing former President Wilson. And, but it's education that is the core of all of this, right? And I mean, even Thomas Jefferson had said, for democracy to flourish, we have to have an educated populace, people that understand what is going on around them, and for them to understand what is going on around them, we have to have teachers, right? No other professions in the world happen without first happening with teachers, right? And so teachers, we know that we have an incredibly dedicated group in Santa Fe Public Schools, but education being foundational to absolutely everything. And I wish the people over in the Roundhouse would really understand that, because we'll have the economic development we want when we have the education we deserve. But Santa Fe Public Schools is very fortunate not only to have an amazing group of educators, but also just all of the complementary staff that make it happen every day. We're very fortunate to have one of the best superintendents in the West, okay? And when you're talking about public education, all you have to do, you know, I see all the other superintendents, I go to these conferences, and we see what goes on around the state. But we also know what happens in Santa Fe. And we know that, and I'm not exaggerating to you, when we do our statewide convention, we know that other superintendents and other board members look to Santa Fe for what's next. What's on the cutting edge, what is going to grow our state, our kids, and our economy. And I know that other superintendents look to one superintendent, who used to be, of course, our Cabinet Secretary for Education. We are very fortunate to have Dr. Veronica C. Garcia. I don't think you're going to find anyone ever who is more passionate about children and about public education, and it is a great honor to work with her and to introduce today Dr. Veronica C. Garcia.
Thank you, President Carrillo, for your generous comments. How are you doing? You guys, come on, how are you doing? Our President Carrillo is right with those lights. I can barely see you, but that's okay. So, last year, you know, I didn't wear my airline pilot jacket for you. But I am going to start the same way, and I'm just going to say, you don't win a car, and you don't win a car, and you don't win a car, but you also don't get me at your door asking you to vote. You know what I'm talking about? For those that don't know what I'm talking about, I understand Oprah was out campaigning in Georgia, and I'm going to steal from a Saturday Night Live skit, where they said that's like having a third grader open the door, and there's Santa, no presents, just asking you to vote for the president for the third grade class, right? Okay, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to show up at your door. But we are going to talk about our schools, and I see out here, what I could see, principals and teachers and students and board members. And it just got me to thinking about a little story, because I always think about stories. There's always weird stuff going on in my head. So I'm going to share with you a story. A little rural community that won a big prize. And they had to take one of those little tiny puddle jumpers to go to a conference. And on that plane was a board member and a superintendent and a principal and a teacher and a student. Off they go. They get to cruising altitude, and the pilot comes on and he says, "We have engine problems, but don't worry. There are parachutes right above your seat. He no sooner finished when, whoo, there he was, right out the window." So, thank you. It gets better. So, they had a quick discussion, And they decided that the board president, or maybe it was a board member, I can't remember, because I'm not going to pick on you, Steve. But the board president, the superintendent, decided that they had tremendous responsibility. They grabbed 2 backpacks and out the window they went. And then there were 3 left, right? And so, you know, the quick discussion principal also has, you know, all those students, community, you know. So the principal's out with that backpack. So now we're down to the teacher and the student. You know what the teacher's going to do, right? Of course, we know what teachers do. Teacher says, you know, I've lived my life, your future is bright, you're young, you take my backpack. And the student says, don't worry. We have 2 more, we have two parachutes left. They said, well, how can that be? I thought there was only 1, but I've counted. They said, no worries, the superintendent jumped out with my backpack. Oh, well. You want to play Jeopardy? All right, we're going to play Santa Fe Public Schools Jeopardy. Are we ready? No money, no prizes, just a wealth of knowledge. So just in case you forgot how to play, I'm going to test the thing out with you first. So you know we start with the answer, right? And then we ask the question. Now the question is the answer. Are you still with me? All right. So I'm going to, before I start the first slide, the answer is 9,000. And the question is, how many episodes of Jeopardy since the show aired 51 years ago? Here's another one. The answer is 1,000 degrees. You know what the question is for real? When they asked second graders, you know, how do you bake or roast a turkey? One of the kids said, you bake it for 5 days at 1,000 degrees. Okay, so now we're going to play Santa Fe Public Schools Jeopardy. And do I have my announcer?
You do.
What is the answer?
1,705.
1,705. Jeff, see if somebody wants to volunteer that thinks they know what the question is.
And the question is?
How many homeless kids are in Santa Fe Public Schools?
How many what?
Homeless kids?
Homeless children. Let's see, what was the question to 1,705? Joe?
How many New Mexico Activities and Athletic Association games are played annually by Santa Fe Public School athletes?
So when you think about that many games, right? We probably have a fraction of kids that ever have problems, or that there's ever an incident. Things go really smoothly through the year. That's a lot of games, and these are just counting games that are covered by NMAA. Isn't that amazing? Ready for another one? Okay. And the answer is Joe.
8,180 and 5,000.
Okay. A hint, the answers aren't how many red hot Cheetos and French fries consumed by students on a daily basis. Who'd like to take a crack at that one? I gave you a hint. Come on, somebody. All right, here we go.
And the questions are?
What is meals served at Santa Fe Public Schools?
Well, let's see. Joe, the question is?
How many students are transferred daily?
Wait a minute. What happened here? Is it?
Yes. How many students are transferred daily, and how many miles do school buses cover in one school year?
Cheetos and buses. I mean, what do I know? They're both yellow. That's a lot of miles. That's a lot of kids. Right? From pre-K to seniors, ride our buses every day. And imagine, it's like a classroom, and you're the teacher, kind of like a substitute teacher with a bunch of crazy kids behind you, going 30, 40, 50 miles an hour, and they do an amazing job every single day, right? And you know, every now and then there's a little incident where maybe someone got on the wrong bus. But for the most part, every single day, we do that and get kids to and from school safely. And our goal is 100% of the kids always get on the right bus and get to school safely. And now we've taken it to a whole new level. If you didn't hear about the Google Rolling Classroom, we have a few of our buses through a partnership with Google who are connected with Wi-Fi, have laptops on the bus, who have longer than a 30-minute ride that can be on those buses learning. And I think that's just taking digital learning to a whole new level. Are we ready? We have a new answer. Joe.
2.7 million.
See, it sounds better when he says it. 2.7 million. Okay. Who likes to take a crack at the question?
Was it a number of times that Mr. Morano was in trouble when he was in middle school?
2.7 million. Could have been.
Oh, that was low. Any ideas? Any ideas?
Somebody want to take a crack at it?
Here we go. We have a winner.
Okay. Winner, chicken dinner. What is it?
Square feet of buildings in Santa Fe Public Schools. Square feet.
Let's see.
How many square feet?
Was that Lisa? Lisa Randall. Fixed. All right. We'll keep track. So you think about it, the average home, 1,500 to 2,200 square feet. Think of the maintenance that you just have in your home. That's a lot of roofs, that's a lot of boilers, a lot of air conditioners, a lot of plumbing, a lot of floors. I'm not talking about just that kind of maintenance. Think about keeping them clean. And if you go through our schools, I'll echo what Mr. Carrillo said, they're amazing. And in every one of our schools, at any time I visit, sparkling, shiny, clean, beautiful environments for our children to learn in. Okay, are we ready for another one? Ready?
288.6 million.
288.6 million. Anybody want to venture a guess? It's a lot of zeros. Anybody? Come on, one of our board members want to guess? Student board?
I think the student board member does have a guess.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't have a guess. What about you, Jeff?
Yeah.
Have a guess? Oh, look, I think somebody back there. One of our
over
board
there,
members.
Dr. Garcia.
I'll guess it's the annual budget for these schools.
The what?
Annual budget.
Annual budget for the schools. Who thinks he's right? All right. And the question is, Joe. Joe?
What is the total budget? What is the total budget for SFPS?
I'm sorry, Joe. You're not controlling the PowerPoint.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
I was asleep at the wheel. Okay, I was going to have somebody put a mirror under your nose, make sure you were okay.
No.
All right, total budget. Now, we typically think of our operating budget as 118 million, more or less, right? But when you consider federal categorical funding, grants, now, okay, you look at that dollar figure, but think about what's behind that. Procurement, RFPs, purchase orders, checks, disbursements, reimbursements. It's like, why do you need people in the business services office? Well, that is a lot of accounting. But guess what? There's also a lot of accountability because they are public dollars. A lot of reports that are represented in that amount of money. And we should be accountable because it's all public money, right? But that was a staggering. Think of the backstory. I want to tell you something, and this is the actual truth. I have to, in our new reconfiguration, after the board passes a barn, I have to go through and put it on the PED OBMS portal. 5 clicks for each bar that the board approves. That's just one tiny example of what goes behind that kind of a budget. Okay, we're almost done. See if you get this one. Joe?
11,228 and 9,685.
Two questions kind of rolled into one. Come on, somebody. Somebody say
we have a winner.
Enrollment. She's right.
What is enrollment in Santa Fe Public Schools?
Okay, we ready? Joe?
How many meals are served daily and how many are served to children who are living in poverty?
So we go back and we look at that. I'm going to take it back to the number. 11,228 meals. So when you're still cozy under the covers in the morning, those wonderful cafeteria workers who are donning their little hairnets and getting ready, right, to lovingly prepare food for our children, make sure that they get, nutritious meals, breakfast and lunch for many children. That's what they really look forward to because nutrition is scarce at home. But 9,000 of those children come to us who live in poverty. We also care to make sure that many of those children take backpacks home over the weekend because they don't have food. But guess what else those kids come to us with? A 30 million word gap. Because children in poverty do not always have that opportunity to have language, developed and whatnot, because of the lack of advantages that they have. Extended learning, enrichment, but every single day, 9,000 of those kids plus look forward to getting a warm meal in a safe environment in the Santa Fe Public Schools. A few more statistics. Joe?
The answer is 12,440.
12,440. You guys just heard this number. Robert Knott should be able to answer it.
I think we have a winner.
Where?
Now we have enrollment.
Enrollment. Now we have enrollment. You think? Yes? What's the question, Joe?
Why do we do this work? Our precious and fantastic students.
So, we have amazing kids that do amazing things. And whether we're talking about ECO or ROTC, the number of awards and recognition, if you are paying attention to our board meetings, it's almost weekly that we are recognizing a student group from being recognized as one of the top music programs by the New Mexico Choral Association, to winners in the New Mexico Middle School Electric Card Challenge, to taking and beating, I always love this, Los Alamos in the State Computing Challenge. Okay? Here's another one. The answer is one.
Whoa.
Oh, I'm sorry, Joe, I'm taking your job. Okay.
That's okay. 1,913.
Who wants to guess what the question is?
Other side. Let me get my steps in. Pull the hammy.
What is the number of employees in the Santa Fe Public Schools?
Who is that? Ruth Ann Greeley. Okay. You think she's right?
How many committed, loyal, and hardworking employees choose to work in the Santa Fe Public Schools?
And when I say choose, I mean they choose to be in our public schools. You'd have to have been out of the country for a while to not know that there is a teacher shortage, there's an educator shortage, there's an educator crisis in the state of New Mexico. And whether you're looking for a statistician or someone in the classroom or a principal, we are so fortunate that we have amazing people that have chosen to be here. If you were to compare us per capita, our shortage is much less than it is in other school districts across the state. But we're going to have to work hard to improve salaries. And we know that the economic environment has changed. And so what does it sound to you if we make it our goal, we said we're going to fight for teacher salaries, that we really strive for a beginning salary of not $36,000, but what about more like $45,000 or $50,000 a year? It's not pie in the sky, folks. Those numbers are truly being talked about. And we need to do that. If we are going to compete, we need to be able to have a paid, quality, professional workforce and be able to compete with our neighboring states. And I really believe that this is the year that we're going to do that. You know, we have garnered many awards, our staff have, from national NEA awards, presidential awards in teaching of excellence in mathematics, best communities for music education. We have a national blue ribbon school. If you go to our strategic plan, you'll see some of those awards there. It is on our website. But I am so amazed of all of the talent that is here. And I thank our employees for choosing to work in the Santa Fe Public Schools. Let's give all of them a round of applause. And thank you for playing Jeopardy! So now we're going to move beyond beans, books, and buses, right? That's what we were just talking about. Some of the data, we're counting the beans, telling you all of that. But now let's really talk about the other side of the house. Because what is our primary work is to educate kids. All that other stuff helps us support our students. So our journey, at least under my administration, began just 2 years ago. May feel like 20, but it's only been 2. And we started in 16, 17. So where have we been and where are we going? So I stood in this stage, this very stage. I wasn't wearing the pilot outfit. I can't remember what I was wearing at the time. But I said to you, and I remember the panic because I decided I wasn't going to have notes. And then I got out there and it was just packed, right? And I'm like, why did I not have notes? You probably were wishing the same thing. Why doesn't she have notes? She's going on and on and on. But I talked to you about the fact that we needed to find our own North Star. That we had been tossed about by NCLB and ESSA now, and changes in leadership at the state level, and that what did Santa Fe want for Santa Fe? And so we went on our quest to find our North Star. Do you remember that? And through that time frame, those elements, we had different stakeholders from business community, philanthropic, nonprofit, various, right? Teachers, parents, students, board members. I mean, every stakeholder group you could think of. And then collectively coming together. And you'll see it in a little bit. That North Star became our guiding principles in our strategic plan. And during that time, we also did other foundational work in building relationships, because relationships are the key, most important thing in what we do, because we work with people, not widgets. Whether it's me with the community or the board, but what's happening in our classrooms, right? That relationship with teachers and kids. And so I'm going to take you along to say this is where we've been. We're going to look at some of our achievement data and then tell you where we're going. So in English language arts, you can see where we compare with other school districts in the state. This is just on par, right? 29% of our kids on this particular assessment are proficient. It doesn't capture, where we're nearing proficiency. We're fairly comparable to Roswell, not too far off from Las Cruces, Gallup. But we look at the ones that have the most growth are Farmington and Rio Rancho. And so we're using them as our benchmarks to work with them, to learn from them. We have spent many visits with Rio Rancho and communicating with their superintendent and their staff. But we'll also be visiting with Farmington to see what best practices. And interestingly enough, as Mr. Carrillo said, people are also asking us about what we're doing in other areas because we can all learn from each other. When we include assessment beyond park, through the last 3 years, it's been between 3 and 2% difference with the overall rate of growth for the state. If you look at overall rate of growth for the state, it's been about 4% over the last 4 years rather. In mathematics, Santa Fe is also on par with 10 largest school districts in New Mexico. Hobbs has been mentioned as a school district that is doing well. We're right in there, but no one's happy with those kinds of results. Whether park will continue, I would imagine that we'll still use it this year. It's hard to tell what will happen with the change in governance. We're one of few states still using the park exam. Overall proficiencies, including other assessments besides park, again, we're within that 2 to 3% range over the last 3 years as compared to the state average. Science, we see a little bit larger of a gap as we compare to science statewide proficiency. We continue to work with our science advisory, with the Los Alamos National Lab Foundation, as we work together with our partners as we embrace the new next generation science standards. And that shows you, this is another representation of the data. Graduation rates. We took a dip, and I told the board that we would take a dip. I'm not sure if I talked about it in the state of the schools. And I said, the reason we're going to take a dip is that, while it's important that we up our graduation rate, we want to make sure that we're graduating kids that are ready for whatever they may choose, college or career, right? And we do know that we had students that were, when I say taking advantage, I don't mean in a bad way, but utilizing rapid credit recovery programs that are available online. And that's not a bad thing if it's done with fidelity. But we had some kids zipping through that, earning the credits, but did they really have the skills that we wanted for them to have? So we tightened that up, more fidelity to the requirements of the program, and we did see dips. We certainly expect to see that increase. So what else have we been doing? We've been working on building a foundation. And a foundation isn't always the sexiest part of a building, right? It's not the most attractive, it's not the most sparkly, it's not the most shiny. But foundations are important. And so what has that foundational work been over the last few years, besides observing and building relationships? And the instructional team have been hard at work ensuring that our teachers have the skills that they need in standards-based instruction. Standards-based instruction is not brand new, but it's relatively new. And many of our educators have not been trained in standards-based instruction and the depth of knowledge that is required and being measured on those assessments. We have been focused on strategies, which is not a bad thing, right? If we're looking at closed reading or Carnegie math, but what's behind that, the depth of knowledge? We also worked on aligning curriculum. And while it's great, that maybe this teacher likes this curriculum and that one likes this curriculum and this school likes that, if it's not aligned, it's really hard on our kids, right? If curriculum's not aligned from grade to grade. And a lot of time on professional development. Another way of saying, on-the-job training. We also have quite a few teachers, and we're happy to have them, on alternative licensure. But with alternative licensure, we sometimes have teachers that are coming to us that have never been in a classroom. And so how do we get their skills up to speed? So a lot of foundational work, ordering of materials, training, and being in the classroom, and how can we continue to build a strong foundation? I'm going to tell you something. It might have to be an edible hat, because people know I like to wear hats. But I am convinced that this is our breakthrough year. Because of the foundational work that has been done, and really focusing in the early years, in pre-K, in kindergarten, in first grade, making sure that children have those foundational skills so that they can be reading and writing by third grade. Because if our kids are reading by third grade, they're going to be more likely to be able to read to learn in fourth grade and beyond. Kids who are reading by third grade are more likely to graduate from high school and not drop out. This is going to be our breakthrough year, or I'll eat my edible hat, right? Somebody's going to have to make me one, that we are going to see growth. I can feel it in my bones. Do you guys feel it in your bones, principals? You guys feel it, teachers that are out there? Really? That's about as much as you feel it? Do you feel it? Okay. I think they're eating cookies. So we're going to talk about this a little more in depth, and when we say we're remarkable happens every day. The board at their last board meeting just approved our strategic plan. It is available online for you to see, and also the work plan that goes with it. But our theory of change was that if we provided our principals with intensive and coordinated support, they would have more time to excel as instructional leaders. Okay? And we know from the research that the principal is that linchpin in student success and improved student outcomes. And we want improved student outcomes for all our children. So this year, we reorganized Team Santa Fe. And the theory behind it is there, but the principles are there, right? That all of us are working together for school improvement. It's not the central office folks saying, okay, you guys at the school, you need to do this and you need to do that, and we're going to be judging you and evaluating you, but rather we own this with you. And so we reorganize. And it's a culture shift. I mean, it's not something that has come that easy. Providing principals with coaching, collaborating, consulting, but also taking off their plate some of the bureaucratic tasks that they get stuck doing. And I know that it's been hard because I had one principal, and I'm not going to mention who, share with me, well, you know, I had to spend 2 hours on the phone with a particular department. And I'm like, no. You shouldn't be spending 2 hours on the phone. You call your supervisor. If they need to spend 2 hours on the phone, then I'll find out that we have a systems problem, but you should not be doing that. You need to be spending your time in the classrooms with teachers so that they can be instructional leaders. The great thing about it as we team together and work with our principals, there's a lot of cross-functional teaming and learning that is happening, but we're also being able to find out what are issues within the district that we need to address. It's taking more time, it is an adjustment in culture, but I do believe that it's going to see improved results. Our vision and mission, again, was worked on by support from all of you that participated in various meetings that we had, and then finalized by the board. But this, I think, is really important, and I hope you take a little bit of time to look at it. This is our North Star. This came out of the work out of Project North Star and our guiding principles. One of the things that I'm super excited about this is that we believe in championing public education. Public education is the backbone of our democracy. And the fact that there is commitment that public education is something that we're all going to work for as a community to support, and high expectations for our kids, that we celebrate our diversity, you know, we believe in ethical and respectful leadership. It really makes me proud to be in this district with core values such as these. In July of 2018, a little quote from the Public Ed Department that Santa Fe Public Schools was beginning to see meaningful student progress, and that if we can continue in this vein, you'll continue to see growth and upward trajectory. And I do believe that about our district. So here are our pillars of success that the strategic plan is organized around. So the first and the largest in this has to do with, and I'm missing my notes, they may have wound up in my purse, but that's okay. Let me just go over here. So this is the first pillar, creating an environment that raises expectations and promotes high academic performance for every student. Rigorous curriculum, effective teaching practices, access to technology, and recognizing the holistic needs of our students. You saw a little bit of that in that video that you just saw, right? About computer science education. But looking at the holistic needs of our children, and I'm very proud of that, because while we're data-driven, we're still leading with the head and the heart, and recognizing the holistic needs of our children, whether we're talking about student wellness and safety, are implemented this year, our new PACS program, which is really amazing. And if you're sitting at a table with a principal, you might want to talk to them about PACS or restorative justice practices, or the board just, approving for us to have more social workers in our school district as a way to improve student safety. The raising of expectations in terms of the training and what we're doing in terms of depth of knowledge, not that surface level knowledge that we know is so important. So very excited about that. Recruiting and retaining and recognizing highly qualified staff. We want to do more with that. We want to partner with you. We do need to work together, all of us, to see our salaries raised so that we can better recruit teachers and employees. But once we have them, we want to retain them. And how can we make this, cost of living is high in Santa Fe, housing is difficult in Santa Fe. So what can we do as a community that show our educators that they are valued and that we appreciate them and that we want to keep them? It costs any business, any industry, but schools, much more to lose people and have to retrain than to keep the people we have and coach them up and make them stronger. And so, just as we've had community conversations in the past, the board did pass a resolution, right, around recruitment and retention and recognition. I'm going to be talking to you this coming year about how can we as a community work together to make Santa Fe a place that really does support its educators. Are you with me on that? And shared responsibility for student success by engaging families and communities, and actively engage diverse traditional and non-traditional partners who will help ensure our graduates are ready for college, career, and lifelong success. And if you go to the website and if you get to see the strategic plan, you will see quite a list of things that we're doing in that manner. This year, a new initiative are our social media people in all of our schools, where we have a parent who we can get information out. Remember the old-fashioned phone tree? Well, it's gone electronic. How can we get the word out? How can we better communicate? Whether we have a school closure, whether there might have been a threat at a school. We had a situation at one of our schools where there was a toy gun, and then 2 weeks later the rumor was there was a gun at the school. There never was a gun at the school. And we do robocalls, but are there better ways of being able to network and communicate? We continue to engage our community partners, and there's so many of you that are here today. We want to continue to do that. Under this pillar, we also have all of the work that is happening around our parent academies, right? And we're engaging in parts of our community where the parental involvement, family involvement isn't what we would like it to be. And right now, my presentation is actually being translated in Spanish. This presentation and the whole program has been broadcast over Kiswabe. It's also being live streamed so that we can have more people be engaged in different ways in what's happening in our school district. Our fourth one is to promote a safe and respectful school community. And our district, I would say, is heads and shoulders. And if you guys can find one that's doing better than we are, then I want to learn from them so we can take it up to the next level. But I can tell you, whether we're talking about cameras, surveillance, how people check in and out of our schools, perimeter fencing, double entry, but also on the preventative side, student wellness, threat assessments, providing assistance, anti-bullying. We are really working hard to ensure that our children are safe, and our teachers and anyone who's in our schools and our buildings. Because if people don't feel safe, right, they're not going to be able to learn. Good old Maslow's hierarchy of need. But I'm very pleased with our community, through mill levies and ETN elections and whatnot, the level of I would say, the best technology and strategies to keep our environment safe for everyone is pretty amazing, and one that you should all be proud of. The fifth pillar has to do with ensuring efficient and effective systems of operation and how we utilize fiscal and digital resources to achieve maximum results. And you saw some of that when I was talking up on the front, right? On the front end when we played Jeopardy, right? And you got a sense of what's happening on the operations side of the house. But we work every day to make it better. And we take your feedback and we collect that feedback. We do focus on continuous improvement. So PDSA cycles, for those of you who know PDSA, right? Plan, Do, Study, Act. And you're always on a cycle of continuous improvement. And we collect data, we analyze it, and then look, how can we do better to better support our schools and our community? This is the one I'm super excited about. And these are the attributes of the graduate. So when we had our community conversations and we worked on, what were our core values, the next thing that came out of that is like, what do Santa Feans want for Santa Fe? Besides our kids, being a PARCC score or an ACT score, how do we graduate students who are well-rounded kids, right? And we got a lot of input on that. And once again, Santa Fe is ahead of the game because guess what? New Mexico is not talking about the New Mexico attributes of a graduate. But we've got ours, and we know what's important to us. And so now we're going to take this to the next level. And so what we did, there's the crosswalk of the Santa Fe attributes. I don't know if you can read them, but creative problem solver, a critical thinker, exhibiting love of learning, academically proficient, computer and media literate, civic and socially responsible, exhibits grit, courage, and perseverance, compassionate, empathetic, respectful, and culturally sensitive, possesses soft skills, communicator, self-confident, collaborative team player, healthy in mind and body, identifies options, and has aspirational goals and future orientation. Now, a lot of communities have defined the attributes of the graduate, and they slap it on a website, and it's like, okay, game over, we did it. But at the Santa Fe Public Schools, we're going to take it to the next level. And so, actually, next week, for 3 days, I will be in New Hampshire, because New Hampshire is one of the states who is ahead of the game on looking at assessment for learning versus assessment for sorting. Assessment for learning versus assessment for sorting. And we still have to be accountable. I don't say that standardized tests have their place and they're not going to go away, but how are we going to measure this and how do we build it in the curriculum? So we've been talking to lots of people, and actually Santa Fe held, I believe, the first statewide meeting of educators who are interested in this concept of how do we look at a broader way of assessing kids. And one of the things is that we did a crosswalk to career-ready practices, so we've identified how those attributes tie to that, and we've tied it to the ITSE student standards. And there are evaluation measures that can be connected to these, to real project-based learning that tie to many of these attributes that students can demonstrate that they have these skills to be ready for college and career. And what I hope will eventually become another way of demonstrating your competency to graduate. The long-term vision is that kids would develop a portfolio from kindergarten all the way up, that by the time you're a senior, you can demonstrate via a project or some other type of demonstration that you have these skills which our business and our broader community has shared with us that they want in a graduate. Is that exciting? And so keep watching, stay tuned, you're going to be hearing a lot more about this. And we hope that we can be ahead of the game to offer whomever is the new secretary, wherever we go in education in our state, to take advantage of ESSA, because ESSA allows for more flexibility than our state has taken advantage of in assessment. And so Santa Fe is poised and ready to say, we'll volunteer, we'll be a pilot, because we want to focus a more holistic and broader way of assessing our kids. While PARCC is important, our kids are more than just one score. Agreed? So our goal, our super goal, is that we'll outpace the state. Right now we're trickling behind. We want to be able to outpace the state and be a flagship district, just like we are in so many other areas. Because what we do is about our kids, right? All of this, the beans, the buses, the books, and all the stuff that why we're here is about our kids. And remarkable does happen every day, and it happens every day because all of you outside and everyone inside the public schools, we are, all of us, Team Santa Fe. Thank you.